this interview, the first question, who is responsible for the budgeting process?
Uh, as our department, Dave Suter, our director, would be kind of the controller of our budget, while each of the coordinators will have kind of access and control over their individual departments, like aquatics and fitness and things like that.
Right, because there's plenty different other sections of,
So we have different things going on with programs that could bring in revenue and different employees and things like that.
Sounds good. Okay, what are the policies associated with the budgetary decision making within that organization? Well, the aquatics organization.
Policies and decision making for my particular budget would come down to me. So budgeting for supplies like chemicals and physical pool parts and replacements and services, as well as employment, so personnel costs. And we don't necessarily have a policy for it, but we have guidelines that we follow that we set up annually, how much we expect to spend on students, staff, parts, supplies, things like that.
Right, right. How often is the budget revised?
Annually.
Annually. Does it change, or is it about the same?
It's about the same. We'll probably get about the same amount of money every year, but where those funds go to within our department might shift a little bit based on previous year's usage.
Right. Okay. What type of input does the budget manager collect from the department heads within the organization?
It would be things like usage, so how many patrons are taking advantage of things like the pool, going to the fitness center, so literally just kind of head counts, and then taking our statements of purchases and then putting those towards the budget to see what we're using and if we're going over or under and how we can better allocate funds.
Sounds good. Do all employees have access to the budget information?
Just the professional staff, so the four of us, the graduate assistants, don't necessarily have access to it unless we're discussing it with them.
Why do you think it's like that?
Just their impact on budget decisions would be pretty low. The information they would give us would just be more details on student usage and participation and things like that.
Okay. How are budget figures derived from year to year?
It's kind of from what I said earlier. It's just based on annual usage, purchases made, and just kind of making sure we're staying within our boundaries. And if we're going over, trying to fight for those monies.
Like if you see that people are using something more often, y'all will get more of that, that kind of
so kind of like the fitness center. If we notice that the treadmills are getting overused, or if we're having to repair them more often, it's because they're getting used more often, so we need more of those. So we can kind of shift things around and replace things that aren't being used with equipment that is being used.
Right, right. What do you believe are the 3 most important facets associated with the budget process?
I would say the yearly review to make sure that we're spending it the way we need to spend it. Planning ahead and setting money aside for replacements and upgrades, and probably staff management so that you're not overpaying for services that you could be paying less for.
Right.
So having appropriate staff on hand.
Okay. And how do you communicate all this information with Dave, so to say?
We have weekly meetings that we'll usually discuss a little bit of the budget, where we're at, what we're spending, projects that we're thinking about pushing forward and what those might cost. So we're always kind of planning ahead. And we also have semesterly meetings with our department and our student division with the student affairs, and we discuss kind of where we're at with them.
Cool. Ultimately, who in the organization must be accountable for the whole budget process?
I would say we're all accountable for our departments, and we need to spend wisely, but ultimately it would come down to the director.
The director, Dave?
Yeah, because ultimately he's the one approving our purchases and things like that.
Right.
So, but it's definitely on us for sure.
Yeah. What would you say type of technology y'all use, like to handle the budget and whatnot?
Yeah, right now we track our spending just with a spreadsheet like in Excel.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have some software with the university that we have our entire budget in, and we can see where the funds are coming from and where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we can keep getting more advanced and get better software.
Yeah. Are there any problems with the current software that y'all use?
Just with using Excel, it's really on us to keep it most up to date.
Mm-hmm.
So if we forget to put something in, it can really mess up
Right. Yeah.
the numbers. So
Throw everything off.
yeah, so
Yeah.
being diligent about putting in your expenditures and things like that is important.
Yeah. How did you learn to use Excel?
Just going through undergrad, using it for different classes, and then taking workshops and things like that. But really, once you start at a job and working full time, what you've done in school really helps. But you kind of learn on the fly and learn on the
Yeah.
job, because whatever you're at, they usually have their own processes and own spreadsheets, and you can learn how to use those.
Because you can retain better when you're actually hands-on. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Well, that's all. So thank you,
Yeah.
Matthew.
Glad I could help.